There is a multinational company in Switzerland that you probably all know. It's called Nestlé. Until the 1970s, Nestlé was mostly focused on chocolate production. However, shortly after, they introduced a product that changed the world: powdered milk. When powdered milk hit the market, initial advertisements claimed that any mother unable to produce milk should give this powdered milk to her infant, stating that it was a good substitute for mother's milk. After a while, Nestlé realized they weren't getting enough customers, as only 5 to 10% of mothers worldwide couldn't produce milk. So they changed their advertising strategy, claiming on radio and television that these powdered milks are even better for children than mother's milk, containing various vitamins and minerals for better growth. These ads were so effective that Nestlé's powdered milk sales worldwide increased several hundred times. However, there were a few significant lies hidden in these advertisements. Firstly, that it wasn't better than mother's milk. And secondly, these powdered milks contain sugar, potentially making children addicted to it. The company Nestlé was rapidly producing dry milk and exporting it worldwide. However, the sales managers were dissatisfied, saying, "We have increased sales by 100 times, but why haven't we reached a point where all the world children consume our dry milk?" In pursuit of this goal, they saw one of the best actions they could take was to pay various doctors around the world to speak about their dry milk. They instructed them to claim in the news that it's better than mother's milk. Although they succeeded for years through deceptive advertising, nowadays this lie of Nestlé company is recognized as one of the biggest lies of the 20th century, as they sold billions of these dry milks through false advertising. The head of Nestlé's advertising department was restless day and night, wanting to boost sales even higher. To achieve this, they thought about what one of the most successful advertisements in the world is, which led them to examine cigarette advertisements. They observed that instead of admitting that smoking is carcinogenic and harmful to humans, cigarette companies gave cigars to attractive and famous people, encouraging them to smoke in front of cameras. People were tempted to smoke after seeing these advertisements. They even paid doctors to smoke in front of the camera. Ordinary people thought, if doctors smoke, let's smoke too. To understand what is not harmful to their health, who do people ask? Doctors. When people want to see what to eat and where now, who do they emulate? Celebrities. During that time, both celebrities and famous individuals as well as doctors smoked in front of the camera. The sales of these tobacco companies were increasing day by day. After completing the evaluations, the advertising team of the Nestlé's company said, "Bingo! We figured out what to do. Just like the tobacco companies, we'll play doctors to not only say our product is better than mother's milk, but also claim that mother's milk has its drawbacks." Don't think these shaping advertisements were only in Europe and America. They had planned it for the entire world, including all of Asia, all of Africa, the entire American continent from north to south, and of course, the whole of Europe. The coverage of these deceptive advertisements extended everywhere. Maybe you won't believe it, but Nestlé's largest sales were in the African continent, cause Africans had the highest newborn rate. Africa still has the highest population growth rate, but it faced a problem: underdevelopment. They could buy powdered milk, but clean drinking water wasn't readily available. The powdered milk had to be mixed with water, but when sanitary water isn't accessible, What water should they use to mix it and feed it to their children? No one cared. Africans, out of necessity, poured the contaminated water available to them into these powdered milks and fed it to their children. Nestle, in its advertisements, wanted to present an easier image, so they didn't tell the African market to boil the water first. They claimed that if they said to boil the water, people wouldn't buy it because they didn't have gas, they didn't have kerosene, and boiling water was a problem for them. So, to avoid a drop in sales, it was better not to tell them the truth. Maybe you tell yourselves that the instructions for preparing powdered milk are written on the milk can, but you should know that only French and English were written on those cans. Many Africans were illiterate at that time, so they couldn't read the instructions on powdered milk. Instead, they asked their neighbors how to prepare it for their children. Their neighbors would simply say, "Mix the powdered milk with water and feed it to your child." In the 1980s, the United States Senate summoned the CEO of Nestlé and asked if it was acceptable to sell powdered milk in areas where clean water was not readily available. The Nestlé representative mentioned they had provided all the information on the cans. But senator insisted on a straightforward answer, and eventually the Nestlé representative admitted it shouldn't be sold, but the responsibility lies with the distributors. As these revelations spread, causing confusion among the public, the World Health Organization in 1981 declared that no one has the right to advertise powdered milk as superior to breastfeeding because it was a blatant lie, and they finally took a stand against these falsehoods. But Nestlé's deceptive advertising and propaganda took a different turn. They slightly altered their course, but intensified some actions, such as paying doctors and even funding entire hospitals. For example, they would give money to a large and renowned hospital with the condition that you use any product, especially for children, from the Nestlé company. Doctors also recommended to mothers that Nestlé's powdered milk is the best. After the conclusion of these programs, you might think Nestlé withdrew from its advertising. Not at all. In 2024, Nestlé is engaged in advertising through various methods in every region of the world. You know, the water is vital. Our life is impossible without it. For instance, in different countries, tap water is much cheaper than bottled water. Essentially, if you are deceitful, you could pour tap water into bottles and sell it to people with very high profit margins. It may be hard to believe, but it has been proven that Nestlé in various parts of the world filled tap water into bottles and sold it to people. From production to consumption, they would pull a water tanker out of the well, and the total cost for them was only $10, transforming it into $50,000 worth of bottled water. So they only had a minimal expense for bottling water, which was quite insignificant. However, the painful part of the story is that Nestlé was implementing this scheme in third world countries, as the risk of such exploitation was higher in Western countries. For example, this story mostly unfolded in the country of Pakistan. In 2012, where reporters asked Nestlé's CEO, Peter Brabeck, where these waters ended up, he gave a horrifying and devilish answer, saying, "Access to drinking water is not a human right."
Das Wasser zu einem öffentlichen Recht erklärt wird. Das heißt, als Mensch sollten Sie einfach Recht haben, Wasser zu haben. Das ist die eine Extremlösung. Ja?
This statement shocked reporters. Interestingly, such a story doesn't explode in mainstream news and social media because these companies and networks control the narrative. You might think Nestlé would reconsider after the incident, but they didn't care and continued their activities with even more vigor. I mentioned that Nestlé started with chocolate. So far, we have learned that their powdered milk is bad. Their mineral water is not suitable. So, the chocolates must be good, like Kit Kat, a globally recognized brand. Besides chocolates, Nestlé also produces the majority of the world's cacao. You might wonder from where? From various points in Africa, countries plagued by poverty, where people are willing to be enslaved just to satisfy their hunger. Agriculture and cacao harvesting are strenuous tasks, and here young slaves are engaged in this demanding work. Cacao harvested in these countries is globally known as blood cacao, cause children sacrifice their lives for it. The issue of child labor in cacao farms in Africa spread in 2000, and today, 24 years later, little has been done. Those children are still enslaved, compelled to be bonded laborers to secure their basic food needs. Despite long-standing criticisms of Nestlé, the world's largest food company with an ambiguous Swiss identity with an unknown base, it continues to dominate global markets, potentially producing many items you consume without awareness, as they have over 2,000 food products distributed worldwide under various names. In any case, the world's largest food company is experiencing exponential growth in a dark environment. A company currently valued at over hundreds of millions of dollars, and there is no company that can compete with or match it. Many people say Nestlé is a devilish company, and money is more valuable to it than anything else. What do you think? In your opinion, is Nestlé still deceiving people? Which products of this company do you use? Please tell us in the comments.